She locked these niggas. You see, we cannot get in the Scientology building, dog. They got that shit on lockdown.
Yo, bro, what's going on? Oh, God. You finna last in or what?
So there has been a new trend. I think I'm kind of late to the trend, but there's a trend like a few weeks ago where there were a bunch of Gen Zers or young people running into Scientology buildings and basically like speed running or like raiding Scientology buildings and just basically map out the Scientology routes, map out the floors in the buildings basically. Now there were like two people who started this trend whose, by the way, their videos have been removed from all platforms, both Instagram and TikTok. I cannot find the original. I can only find re-uploads of the original. Fuck. So this trend started at this building. Wait, what was that building? Like that building where there's like this black woman wearing that scarf. Yeah, it started out in that building. Then it quickly progressed to other buildings as well. It went to NYC, it went to Vancouver as well. And then they started dressing up in these like outfits. Some guy dressed up as Jesus to break in. Some guy dressed up as Gru and the Minions to basically protest outside the main building, the blue building basically. One guy even got a bunch of dwarves together and stormed the building, one of the buildings. I can't remember which location it was. And so like among all this madness, I saw an account that was the official Scientology account on TikTok and on Instagram as well, from Minnesota, and where they have this this young lad looking also very angry.
I'm gonna show you what's inside every Church of Scientology. 1, a reception. 2, a public information center for you to tour anytime. 3, an office of L. Ron Hubbard out of respect. 4, plenty of e-meters.
Basically giving us the tour of the church inside. To my knowledge, I don't think this church was raided at all. But of course in the comments were like, so Scientologists can film inside their own buildings whereas we can't? And to that I say, yeah, I mean, it's their building. They can do whatever the hell they want with it. If I don't want you filming in my house, I don't want you filming in my house. And if I want to film my house, I can film my house. I mean, this is... I don't know what this means. I don't know what you mean, brother. And after all this happened, the Scientologist church basically issued out like, oh my god, this is like an attack on us. This is a coordinated attack on us. And you know, they've broken like property and whatnot. And I've also like heard like 2 people have been arrested over like assault charges and battery, which... yeah, and it got to a point where like the Scientologists had to lock up the doors, had to barricade themselves. They even removed, I think on one of the churches, they even removed the door handles so that none of these people could ever get in. And a lot of people are concerned for these people, a lot of activists are concerned for these young people. This has happened before where a bunch of young people have attacked the church, whether by legal or illegal means. And you know, the church has tried in all of its power to basically silence these people before. And so looking at Scientology's track record, they're not to be messed with. So to give you an overview, a brief history of Scientology. It was founded by Ron L. Hubbard. So Ron L. Hubbard back in like the 50s published a book called Dianetics. It was basically like a psychological book, you know, as seen, L. Ron Hubbard, Dianetics, the modern science of mental health, right? But it slowly evolved into a religion. So some key beliefs following Dianetics, which is in Scientology. So following the book of Dianetics and Scientology, let me go and get my glasses first. So every person has a thetan in them. A thetan is a spiritual being. The thetan is immortal. After the body dies, it reincarnates in a different body. So the thetan has lived many lives, and through its many lives, it collects something called engrams, harmful or negative spiritual marks that are caused from traumatic events. So engrams cause a thetan negative emotions such as distorting behavior. Basically, engrams are bad. They will cause you distress, they will cause you pain, they'll cause you suffering, and you need to get rid of them. So engrams can be removed through auditing using an e-meter. This is an e-meter. Through auditing, the person becomes clear and advances towards a higher operating thetan. So how does Scientology get members through its doors? Or lure prey. So first you have to appeal to a specific type of person. What should your audience be? And that's people who want self-improvement or personal growth, or people who are just generally down on their luck or weak, like through financial crises or like relationship issues, depression, so on and so forth, right? So after you find your audience, you gotta attract your audience. That could be in the form of public endorsements like Tom Cruise or John Travolta, free services and public events like the Oxford Capacity Analysis, which is a free personality test that claims to help people understand their strengths and weaknesses, which usually is just a way to convince people that they need Scientology. Workshops, seminars, and exhibitions to promote teachings and promise solutions to personal challenges, which will draw curious people. From leaked sources and ex-members, basically, they have said that there is a 4-step dissemination drill, right? So if you were to like debate with a Scientologist or talk to a Scientologist, and if they're trying to convince you, evangelize you, to proselytize to you to get through its doors, basically make contacts or talk to you, disarm antagonism, basically like any doubts or any skepticism or any like bad things that this person may have against the church, you're gonna try and like debate them and like try to remove it, right? Find your room, which is the most personal part. So basically, like if this guy has like recently like was broken up with and he's like really depressed and whatnot, try and like use that against him, right? He's vulnerable in this place. Basically try and find like a very soft spot in them, right? So, you know, if you find some big guy, what do? Kick him in the balls. And then finally offer the solution, which is Scientology. Now, once you get through its doors, you have to progress through the system, of course, because it's a tiered system, right? So first, it would start off with introductory courses, communication or self-improvement oriented, study tech, studying and learning, ethics courses, auditor training, and OT preparation courses. And a lot of this requires money, which you pay out of your own pocket, which is why some people say it's pay to progress. And the higher the level you are in, the more expensive it gets, and people can expect to pay tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars before they even like find out, oh shit, this is crappy. What makes it a cult comes from these controversial beliefs. So a suppressive person is basically someone that tries to disseminate false info about the church. So that could be like journalists, activists, former members, and if one of your family members in the church is labeled an SP, a suppressive person, you should disconnect. Basically cut all contact with that family member, and sometimes cut all contact with all your family. There are some policies to combat these suppressive persons, right? A fair game policy and the attack the attacker policy. So for fair game policy, you are to aggressively combat these SPs through tactics like lawsuits, investigations, deceptions, and reputational destruction. And attack the attacker, which is similar. Don't just defend against criticism, you have to also counterattack. Okay, this section has been going on long enough, but I just want to shorten this part. I just want to give some examples of people who have been on the receiving end of this fair game policy. Paulette Cooper, who wrote The Scandal of Scientology, Scientologists surveyed her, harassed her, and attempted to frame her for bomb threats. Another one is Gerald Armstrong, assigned to organize Hubbard's personal papers for Hubbard's biography, but eventually left the church but kept the copy of those papers. He was sued by the church but eventually won in court. Ronald Miscavige Sr. Okay, he's Ronald Miscavige. Okay, he's related to David Miscavige, which is the current leader of the church, right? He left the church in 2012, and in 2013, there was an attempt on his life. Some honorable mentions of what Scientology did. Operation Snow White, a covert operation conducted in the 70s to infiltrate government agencies, steal or alter records, and remove negative information about Scientology and Hubbard. And lastly, R245, exteriorization by a .45 pistols to separate the thetan from the body. Basically shoot someone in the head. So that's it about Scientology, its history, its beliefs, and the things that they've done. Now I'm going to relate this back to what's happening today. Young people terrorizing the church is not new on a grand scale. I would say on an even grander scale, because this was international, right? And that's something called Project Chanology. Now, credit goes to Wikipedia and many YouTube videos that are still up from 2008. These are like really old relics on YouTube. Like, you know, other than the Internet Archive, if you use like operators or you search like specific dates, you can find what you want, because, you know, I guess you can do that now on YouTube. So here are the series of events that took place under Project Chanology. So in January 14, 2008, there was a leaked video of Tom Cruise onto YouTube promoting Scientology. Now, he made various statements, right? But one statement was that only Scientologists are the people who can help you after a car accident, and that Scientologists are the only authority on getting addicts off drugs.
Being a Scientologist, when you drive past an accident, it's not like anyone else. As you drive past, you know you have to do something about it because you know you're the only one that can really help. We are the authorities on getting people off drugs. We are the authorities on the mind. We are the authorities on improving conditions. Criminon, we can rehabilitate criminals. Way to happiness, we can bring peace and unite cultures.
After this video leaked, the church basically issued copyright strikes to many social media platforms to take it down. So after that, a lot of young people basically on 4chan and 7-Eleven-chan basically created something called Project Chanology, undertaken by Anonymous. Anonymous is like a hacktivist group that was not specifically made for just Project Chanology. They have been like doing other hacktivism for way before and way after. The members' main goal was to enlighten the Church of Scientology by any means necessary and save the people from Scientology by reversing the brainwashing. Now, this is when Anonymous started attacking Scientology. So Anonymous used DDoS attacks, prank calls, and black faxes to basically overwhelm the Scientology websites. And it was successful in taking down these websites from January 18th to January 25th. They released a video to YouTube called Message to Scientology, stating attacks will continue on the church to protect freedom of speech and ending financial exploitation of members.
Hello, leaders of Scientology. We are Anonymous. Over the years, we have been watching you, your campaigns of misinformation, your suppression of dissent, your litigious nature. All of these things have caught a rise. With the leakage of your latest propaganda video into mainstream circulation, the extent of your malign influence over those who have come to trust you as leaders has been made clear to us. Anonymous has therefore decided that your organization should be destroyed, for the good of your followers, for the good of mankind, and for our own enjoyment.
On the 25th of January, they flooded the front page of Dig.com, which I think is kind of like a precursor to Reddit, with Scientology-related content exposing the church. Now, how did Scientology respond? On the 21st of January, they moved the main site to Prolexic Technologies, a provider specializing in safeguarding websites from DDoS, but they were still unable to get the website up until, like I said, 25th January. Now, after this, they started planning protests, right? So Anonymous published a call to action video on January 28th and also a code of conduct which outlined 22 rules to follow when protesting and urged followers to remain peaceful.
Be very wary of the 10th of February. Anonymous invites you to join us in an act of solidarity. Anonymous invites you to take up the banner of free speech, of human rights, of family and freedom. Join us in protest outside of Scientology centers worldwide. We are Anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. We will be heard. Expect us.
Now, the first protest was held in Orlando, Florida with 150 people. And the second one was in February 10th, which was worldwide, having about 7,000 people. Now, this was the protest where basically Anonymous members basically showed up and showed out and basically wore their identity on their face, literally, as they wore Guy Fawkes masks from V from Vendetta. Now, of course, they're going to stay anonymous. They don't really want people to know who they are. They also blasted "Never Gonna Give You Up" using boomboxes.
Dianetics signs up and Dianetics books up and all that. They're all gone. At the other location, they had all their curtains drawn. They don't want to be, they don't want people to know that they're there. Any other guy, I just want to tell you how I'm feeling.
The second international protest took place on March 15th. 7,000 to 8,000 people participated. They sang "Happy Birthday" for Hubbard.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Senior. Happy birthday to you.
And also they flew a plane overhead in LA with a banner, "Honk if you think Scientology is a cult." 2 people were arrested for using megaphones and stepping onto the street during a protest in Georgia, DeKalb County.
What? They think he's the organizer. What are they being arrested for?
Go! Let him go! Let him go! Let him go! Let him go!
We are out here protesting that our given rights are being broken by Scientology because they actually don't give the freedom of speech to their group. They don't. They tell them you can't say anything about anything that we're doing.
April 12th, the third international protest was held. 4 to 5,000 people participated. Now, this protest was about a specific topic about the disconnection policy.
Freaking hot cokes. I was doing videos of all the signs.
On May 10th, another international protest took place. A teenager was issued a court summons in London after being asked to take down a sign. Scientology is not a religion, it is a dangerous cult. Legal action was dropped. I think the church issued this, I think. And this kind of goes to show you that this is the start of something that Scientology will try to do, right? Against the anonymous group, is that even though you are anonymous, even though no one knows your name, even though they can't identify you, they will try to find you. They'll try to find where you live. They'll try to litigate you. They'll try to take legal action against you. Now, of course, most of these people, they were never going to be found. But if you were the church, you would try to find these people, right? On June 14th, the group organized another protest to protest the Sea Org. Now, the Sea Org group is just like a group of very elite members of the church, right? So there were some controversies. With the group as well. There were Scientologists working below livable wage.
We want you to know about former members of Scientology's private navy, Sea Org, who were forced to have abortions so that they could continue in service to the church.
And in this protest, they decided to dress up as pirates and play the bagpipe. On July 12th and August 16th, they organized another protest to protest the Office of Special Affairs. On September 8th, they organized 2 protests for the first preview of All My Sons, encouraging Katie Holmes to leave the church. On October 18th, another worldwide protest was organized where they dressed up as zombies and highlighted questionable deaths and suicides of Scientologists. Sadly, I couldn't find any videos on this protest. January 8th, 2009, now we've gone to the big 09. Mahood Samed Al-Hamadin, I don't think that's his real name, 18 years old, ran into the New York Scientology building shirtless and covered with Vaseline, pubic hair and toenail clippings, charged with burglary, criminal mischief, and aggravated harassment as hate crimes. Jacob Sparagon, 21 years old at the time, charged with aggravated harassment and criminal mischief as hate crimes after he filmed Al-Hamadin carrying out his prank. Now, where did they get the pubic hair and toenail clippings? There is a video showing it where this guy takes the hair and the toenail clippings and smothers it all over his body from like a Ziploc baggie. So basically, I guess they went around collecting stuff from other people. That's gross.
Brave Agent Pubit. Agent Pubit was very brave. Watch ye friends and ye shall see that he will win the day. Handed him pubes, so many pubes, so he may complete his guise. The path to victory and win, paved with pubes accumulated from the anonymous horde. They came to him, fell he could not afford.
Excuse me. Come here. Down here. Yeah, we have a nut right outside.
January 10th, another protest to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of Project Chanology. Now, after this, there weren't any more protests, or at least protests that were worth mentioning, right? Now it's just a bunch of controversies or events that took place around Project Chanology, right? Now, March 2009, a board of supervisors in Riverside County approved an ordinance to restrict residential picketing to 30 feet of an individual's residence. Now, some critics suspected it was influenced by the protest at Gold Base compound. The supervisor cited protests at Gold Base as an example. And Gold Base was isolated with limited sidewalks, so it would cripple demonstrations. So far, no one really knows what happened here. Some people believe that, the Church of Scientology influenced the ruling, influenced the ordinance. I think the place where the protest took place in was kind of like a gated community. Like, you know, I don't think I want any protests in my gated community because it's peaceful and whatnot. May 2009, an 18-year-old member of Anonymous, self-described, pleaded guilty to hacking charges. Scientology cooperated in the investigation. Members of Anonymous alleged they were bullied by off-duty security guards while protesting in an event at Nashville, Tennessee. One protester alleged 3 guards assaulted him. Scientology informed them the protesters were dangerous. So some responses by the church. January 26, 2008, Karen Powell said the leaked Tom Cruise video consisted of pirated and edited excerpts from the 2004 Scientology event. On January 28th, the Church of Scientology statements to law enforcement requested criminal investigations into anonymous-related DDoS attacks and emphasized Scientology's status as a religion, arguing the attacks would qualify as hate crimes. In February 2008, the church published a YouTube video alleging Anonymous are terrorists and perpetrating hate crimes. They also had a DVD campaign containing the YouTube video, and delivered it to relatives of the protesters. There was a YouTube channel that was created called Anonymous Facts, which was allegedly associated with the church, doxed Anonymous members, and the account was quickly removed. March 31st, law firms delivered legal letters to suspected members. Like I said before, Scientology is not to be messed with. Even if you are anonymous, they will try in all of their power to bring justice against you using their fair game policy. They will find anything about you. Like I said, they do surveillance. They will probably try and dox you. They'll try and probably dox you. They'll try and get your personal information and whatnot. And like what happened to Ronald, they were going to attempt to kill him. And lastly, on May 8th, Tommy Davis, this guy, claimed 96 death threats, bomb threats, acts of violence, vandalism from Anonymous. John Roberts responded, FBI had no evidence.
John, the reality on it is that in our case, we're dealing with things like, 96 death threats, bomb threats, acts of vandalism, these kinds of things that are very disruptive and very harmful. And we have to take measures on our part to ensure the protection of our facilities and our parishioners and their physical well-being as a general rule. When you're talking about this group and referring to them as cyber terrorists, these are the kind of people who, put together imagery intended to cause epileptic seizures and then hacking into the Epilepsy Foundation's website and throwing it up there, trying to cause people to have epileptic seizures. And they do these kinds of things for laughs, and they say this themselves.
You are leveling these accusations at this group. The FBI, which is looking into it, says it has found nothing to connect this group Anonymous with what you're talking about, or death threats against members of the church. The FBI at this point says it has no reason to believe the charges will be leveled against this group.
Now, here are some reactions from some activists or former members of the church. I'm not going to read them for you, but I'll basically just generally summarize. So the first person, Andreas Helderlaum, basically said that freedom of speech is very important. You need to be able to hear from opposing sides, even though, as a person, I believe that Scientology is a cult that abuses its own people. However, attacking Scientology like this will make them use the excuse that, oh, we are a persecuted religion. Which, if you look through how these activists respond to what happened in 2008 and in 2026, a lot of these people do cite this reason as, oh, the church will try and victimize themselves and say that they are a persecuted group, right? Mark Bunker, a former member of Scientology, who was also labeled by Anonymous members and Project Chanology members as the wise beard man because he was very integral in disseminating information about the church, basically said that, Scientology was going to get these people in trouble. He was concerned for the protesters, but he was also concerned about the Scientologists themselves.
It may seem like fun and games, but Scientology is serious, and you have to be prepared. You can say, well, we're all anonymous, they're not going to get us. If they get one of us, there'll be 10 others who stand up. Well, that's good for you, but how about the ones who get caught? I am concerned about that. I'm mainly concerned because you shouldn't be doing things that are illegal. You just shouldn't. It's not morally right, and it's not right when Scientology does it. It's not right when we do it.
So after all of this, you can reasonably assume why people are so concerned for these people. Even under the guise of anonymity, they can still somehow find your location. And given the track record of Scientology, I don't really want to mess with that dragon, right? Even some activists who are still around today have responded to what was happening to the church. For example, Leah Ramani basically posted an IG reel. Scientologists are indoctrinated and radicalized into thinking that they are doing good. Seeing this will only radicalize them into only trusting other Scientologists and feed into the narrative of being a persecuted religion.
Because this trend creates chaos, it creates a spectacle. And worst of all, it hands Scientology exactly what they want, the ability to position themselves as the victim. They want to be able to say that they're being harassed. They want to reinforce this false narrative that they're a legitimate religion being persecuted, and you're playing into that narrative. The people inside the Scientology, they're trained to react in a certain way to make themselves appear as though they're being harassed and victimized.
Again, persecuted religion. We are being persecuted. I'm the victim in all of this, right? Exposing the church in this manner only harms regular Scientologists and not the ones above, like David Miscavige. They live in gated communities with security guards. Now remember this, Scientologists only trust their own. That is why when you see in all these videos, you have these weak ass bodyguards. These guards who are wearing these like 3-piece suits with like the dangling chain and the gloves, kind of looking more like waiters that are gonna serve me at a fine dining restaurant than actual guards, right? Like I was thinking to myself, why don't they hire like a Samoan or something?
Okay, I'm partially wrong on this part. They do have guards. They are from the Sea Org, which is an organization that is fully staffed with Scientology members. And like previously, Project Chanology was protesting against the Sea Org because they pay their staff slave wages. However, their presence is only limited to, I think, like more important buildings. So like that blue building, they are outside there. Now this doesn't change anything because what Tom Cruise said is still true. They only rely on their own. Now what those people are doing, like that video I showed you, I have no idea what they are. They could be guards they could be like lower tier guards, or just because this building is probably like less important, they are not staffed with the specific Sea Org guards. So they're probably given like some whatever, they're just probably given whatever guards that there is, right? I don't know what kind of uniform he's wearing, so I don't know what role that's supposed to signify.
In my uneducated opinion, I don't really know how to feel about this trend. I mean, I understand the dangers that these activists and former journalists are talking about Scientology, right? But I feel like Scientology has bigger fish to fry other than some young people breaking in and entering their place of worship, I guess. And not to mention, these crowds of people are very easily stopped if you just lock the doors. It's the same thing for Vancouver. The building locked their doors. No one was able to get in. So they just had to brave this storm of people that hung around for about 4 hours before they dispersed around 6:30. Like for example, Paulette Cooper or Gerald Armstrong, they fried fish with them because they did leak documents, they did expose things that were untrue. Even for Ronald Sr., where someone tried to off him, I believe that these are the people Scientology should really fear, because these are the people who will bring them down. I had to bring it back to Project Chanology because, you know, the evidence was there, the knowledge was there that Scientology was kind of like a cult. But remember, this was the start of the internet. This was 2008. And they had dip.org, which, like I say, it's just a precursor to Reddit. But they had a homepage where 8 out of the 10 trending topics was about Scientology. So it really showed that people didn't know what Scientology was, or they were very interested in Scientology, and then they found out that Scientology wasn't really a good religion, it was a cult. It went from like a niche few where it was like journalists and activists and former members and like surrounding family members or people close to them or people who are really interested in Scientology, to basically just everyday people who read up on Scientology and basically said, yeah, this is a cult. Now the internet has been around for so long, a whole entire generation has been on the internet like me. I didn't know Scientology. I didn't know what Scientology believed. I knew there's a South Park episode on it, but that's really about it. And I knew that it was a cult. That's the most important thing, that I knew it was a cult, and that was the case. And if that was the case, I would just stay away from it. I didn't know what their internal beliefs were, like auditing and thetans and clearing and exteriorization, R245, and I didn't know any of these. I didn't know the founder until I read up on this just a few days ago. I didn't know about Project Chanology until it appeared up on my screen while I was researching Scientology. I read somewhere that, you know, Scientology has taken like a nosedive in like revenue and whatnot. Like they don't have a lot of followers, they don't have a lot of members flowing through the doors anymore because now everyone knows that they're a cult, right? But so maybe that could lower the threshold of applying the fair game policy to you. So if you start a trend of running through the church, maybe they could apply that fair game policy to you. I don't really know. I do have to say we have to give gratitude to all the activists and the journalists who have suffered through litigations, and also the members of Project Chanology and Anonymous for bringing to light all of this. However, I do think the work is not over, because even though everyone knows that Scientology is a cult, I think a lot of people still don't know what Scientology is or believe in its teachings, because when I was looking at the Scientology Minnesota account, there were a lot of people who said that they wanted to join. And I don't know whether those accounts are bots or are real. So I'm like, I'm concerned for these people. In the end, I don't know whether I should be concerned for these kids or not, because there is a difference between Project Chanology and what's happening today. Project Chanology had a goal and it carried it out, whereas this speed running thing, they claim to have a goal of exposing Scientology, but I think it's just a bunch of kids who are just trying to give legitimacy to a trend to make it last longer. That's really about it. There's no meat in the sauce, basically, right? On one hand, I feel like I said, Scientology has bigger fish to fry, just because a bunch of teenagers running through your halls not really big of a deal, because this will slide, right? Any property damage, you'll pay for it. They go to jail, so be it. They did break the law. If the concern is just, oh, you're gonna have a stain on your record and no one will really want to employ you, I think that's just a really standard behavior for any people who break the law. But at the same time, maybe Scientology will go after them in a sense that where they'll try to survey them, they'll try to track them down, they'll try to gather information and smear them, or do something to them, to the teenager themselves, or the friends and family surrounding them. Like, I don't really know what to make of this, since, you know, Scientology is in the shits right now, because like I said, members are not flowing in as freely as they are last time. So probably the threshold of applying the fair game policy to these people is probably way less than before.
Okay, the Church of Scientology states officially that they have about 8 to 15 million Scientologists in the world, which is a big fat lie, because that puts them like at the same number as some Protestant branches. It puts them around half the size of the Mormon Church, which the Mormon Church is very visible, so I should be able to see that with Scientology, but I have not heard of Scientology for like a few years now up until this point. So some guy did a study like by themselves. In the 90s, they found out that they had about 100,000 followers. In 2014, there's an estimated 30,000 followers according to Wikipedia, and now it's about 10,000. So the following count has been declined, the membership count has been declining. That's why I'm saying Scientology is getting harder and harder. The church is finding it harder and harder to find followers to push through their doors. That's why I'm saying that the threshold might probably be lower.
But what do you think? Do you think that these people will just be alright? Do you think these people are fucked? What do you guys think? Leave it in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like the video, subscribe to my channel. If you want, you can hype up the video as well. And yeah, thanks. Bye.